Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 previewing SEC basketball games for Wednesday night, January the 18th. Let's start in Baton Rouge, where LSU goes to Auburn. 6 Central tip-off. The game can be seen on ESPN2. Auburn starting to play very well. LSU has really struggled, especially on offense of late. Got obliterated in Baton Rouge. LSU did get Cam Hayes back. Didn't really much matter. LSU's had a lot of trouble shooting two-pointers. Auburn's interior defense is really good, and this just seems like a matchup of where the teams that can score are starting to separate themselves. Auburn can do that. It does have some issues with turnovers and things that we've documented, but in a matchup of two of the league's better big men in KJ Williams and John I. Broome, I like Auburn in this one, Blake. And by the way, we are doing this on Tuesday morning. We don't have lines, but we assemble an estimated line based on some computers we like that looks like it should be Auburn is about a 4-point favorite on the road with about a 57% chance to win. So, Blake, with that, have at it.
I feel like I've heard you say all that before.
It's almost like we've done this a few times.
Almost like this is our third time recording this video. Thanks to the dogs, because someone clearly let the dogs out. Anyways, I don't even know. I feel like I've said so many different versions of this game in the unreleased files of our recordings here. But I mean, I think Auburn, we say it's hard to pick against a home team in the SEC these days, but I just think Auburn's playing a lot better, and LSU offensively, just there's a lot of pressure on Williams and Miller to be the guys every single game. And when they're not, sometimes I think it puts a lot of pressure on the other guys. Not that those guys can't score, but not to the level, I think, of what KJ Williams and Adam Miller can do. And so, we'll see how Auburn defends them. Meanwhile, if you're LSU and you're defending Auburn, I think you want this game to play out a lot like the Mississippi State game did for Auburn, in that, it's a game where played in the 60s. Auburn shoots a lot of threes because, again, they went 11-25 in that game, but I don't, that's not been the norm for Auburn this season. So my guess is that LSU is really going to try to push them to get a little, happy shooting the three. And if Auburn does that, then I don't think it's a great idea, just because, again, it's one thing to do it at home, one thing to do it on the road. And, I feel like that is one of those things where if Auburn kind of stick to the game plan and not, try to replicate exactly what it did, 3-point shooting wise against Mississippi State, I think it's going to be harder because, again, State kind of, I think, tried to do the same thing. But I just lean towards Auburn here. Again, I think they're playing better. And I know LSU's coming off a 40-point loss, and it's easy to say that, 4 straight losses, 40-point loss. They just don't have it. I think this game will obviously be closer because I feel like you will kind of see LSU bounce back here, but I just don't offensively that I trust them enough to be able to score enough consistently against Auburn on the defensive side. Because as we said, Auburn's been really good defensively this year, and I would expect that to continue against a team that has not been that great offensively this year. So, there's something just a matter of confidence too, right? Auburn's playing with a lot of confidence right now. LSU's not playing with a lot of confidence because of the streak of games they've been on. And we said, right, this schedule is brutal for them. And here's another example of that. They got Auburn and they got Tennessee, got to go to Arkansas, got to go to Missouri, got Bama. Like, it's sort of an unrelenting schedule here for LSU. So it's never easy to win on the road, but I'll take Auburn.
Two of the league's hotter teams match up in College Station. Florida travels to Texas A&M. That game tips off 6 Central on the SEC Network. Aggies looking for their 7th straight win. Florida looking for a 4th straight win. Both teams have really started to turn it around after we had some questions about each in November and December. For Florida, it's Colin Castleton has started to play better after he had a little rough patch. Might be, well, for Colin Castleton, that's probably accurate. Wasn't playing up to the standard that we're used to seeing him playing. A&M has really sneakily become one of the conference's best offensive teams, ranking 27th in adjusted offensive efficiency. Wade Taylor IV has been tremendous this year. They're starting to get contributions from other guys like Julius Marble. We talk about bigs. This is a good year for bigs in the league, and so that Castleton-Henry Coleman, the third matchup, will be good. I like A&M here just because it's home and probably a little bit better team in my mind. It's one of two unbeaten teams in the league, but Florida's not been a pushover lately either, Blake.
Well, I mean, look, the Aggies have already won the first game between the two. One in Gainesville 2 weeks
Close.
ago. Well, yeah, but I mean, they played pretty well and won that game. And as we said, winning on the road in the SEC, that's means a lot these days, I think. So a nice win there, and Florida turned it over 20 times, and that's kind of my fear here is, I wonder just kind of, Florida taking care of the ball against this A&M team, which will force some turnovers. We know that, and their defense is playing better now. And, I think, again, as we said, it's look, Florida's got to win against LSU on the road. So, like, they got a little confidence there. But, I mean, I'm going to stick with my A&M's going to be 5-0 in the league. Prediction from several weeks ago, right after the Florida game. I said, here they are. They're probably going to be 5-0. I'm going to stick with it because I just think that, again, you've got two teams that are both playing well right now. Two teams you feel like are starting to kind of turn their seasons around. Florida's won 3 in a row. A&M's won, 6 in a row. So, I think it will be another close game, but it's hard to ignore kind of this confidence from A&M. And especially, like I said, they're playing better defensively, but they're also playing much better on the offensive end of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been the difference. And you mentioned all the guys that are stepping up and contributing and, their ability to get to the free throw line. I still think they're probably, I have to look at the NCAA stats today, but we brought the stat up a while back. Let me see
Well,
if
they're
it's
third in
still.
the country at free throw to field goal attempts.
Well, that's what I was trying to see. Yeah, free throw attempts per game, 26.1. That's second in the nation. Alabama's fourth, by the way. So, yeah, I mean, they're still shooting a lot of free throws, and that shows you, I think, a team that has realized what its strengths are. Like, they realize, I think, that from just a shooting standpoint, from the outside and all that, they're probably not going to be able to get where they want to go just doing that. And so they are able to now get to the free throw line a lot. Although hey, look at this though. They've shot the ball three pretty well the last couple games, right? 10 of 23, 9 of 20. Those are pretty good numbers. So I mean, look, they're playing well right now. And so I would not pick against the Aggies against a lot of teams in the SEC at this very moment, even though, like I said, you can rank them wherever you want to rank them. But at home, especially, I don't think you can pick against them here. So
Yeah, with Florida, it's can Richard and some of those other guys hit some threes? We've talked about how Florida's had some trouble with that. They get it in spots, but it just hasn't been consistent enough.
yeah, and I mean, again, it's going to be hard to do against A&M because the kind of pressure and aggressiveness they play
Yep.
with, and it's just a hard thing to do. Although statistically, I guess they're not great against the three, but just the way A&M plays, and that game was a really good game the first time around. The turnovers to me is the number to circle here because if Florida turns it over, and look, they turned over 20 times and lost by 3. So, but I think this is one of those games where Buzz kind of we'll see what worked from the first time around, and they'll really try to hit on that here in the second go.
Betting $11 to win 10 stinks. With BROTHROW, you bet 10 to win 10. It lets you bet in all 50 states because it's not the house. Bettors have a fair chance at winning. It is the only sports betting platform that doesn't take a cut of every bet. You don't have to deposit money. You don't have to make minimum bets. There's no need to connect your bank account. Bettors pay each other directly. There's a hassle-free sign-up process that gets you in the action in seconds. Go to brothrow.com/SE14 once you're there. Ask to join our Southeastern 14 community and have some fun with us there. Okay, last one on the schedule. Arkansas goes to Missouri. That one tips off at 8 Central on the SEC network. Both teams have not played their best of late. Missouri's lost, a couple in a row. Arkansas came to Nashville this weekend and lost by, 13 to Vanderbilt. Both teams have got some issues here. Arkansas falling apart defensively the way that it did Saturday was kind of astonishing. We talked about their offensive issues as being a place where we had some concern. Finding shooting and those things have been an issue. Missouri, that's not really been an issue all year. Missouri has got offense, but defense has been another story. I guess if you're Arkansas, you've got a chance to get right on offense a little bit. But I'm just not sure that they can outscore Missouri and Columbia.
Well, Missouri's offense has been good for the most part, but they have not been good in recent games. And I think that's worth noting. I think, what do they go? 3 of 18 from three against Florida, 7 of 31 at A&M, 6 of 19 against Arkansas. But what's the common denominator between those three? Is they're all on the road. And
Yeah.
Missouri is just one of those teams that just has not played well on the road in these games. But guess who else hasn't played well on the road?
Yeah.
Arkansas has not played well on the road. So, I think that's something to consider. I mean, Arkansas is 0-3 on the road, right? They lost at LSU, lost by double digits at Auburn, lost by double digits at Vanderbilt. And now they play a Missouri team that, gets to come back into the friendly confines and try to kind of refigure their offense a little bit after scoring 64 points in back-to-back games. And this is a hard game to pick because I think this is a virtually, it's kind of a pick 'em in my opinion. You saw how that first game played out between these two a couple weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago. I mean, Missouri got a huge lead early, but then Arkansas, able to kind of make their move after that. And, that was another sort of game where I thought Missouri gave up some easy shots at times, but it wasn't to the level maybe as it's been in some of these games. But Arkansas turned the ball over a bit, and just trying to think back to like some of the other storylines from that game, but it was kind of one where again Missouri just did not shoot the ball as well.
Missouri jumped out early in that game, didn't it? To a big
They were up
lead.
like 23, 25-8, something like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, got a huge jump, but then Arkansas able to kind of get into some of those cracks on the defense, and that was able to help them get back in the game. But I mean, this is like I said, it's a tough one here because I think Arkansas hasn't won on the road, and Missouri's been really good at home. Um, so it's like if I'm going to go by that, I'm probably going to pick Missouri here because I just think the Arkansas team we see right now, we all have to understand the context of it. And remember back in November, we're talking about, boy, Arkansas, with all their pieces, they're good enough to win this whole thing, maybe. But we're
And
talking about a
probably
completely
was.
different. Well, we're talking about a completely different team now, and like it or not, you can say, well, next man up. I mean, how it works. Like, I'm sorry, like basketball is much harder for next man up because
there's not a next man up to Nick Smith or Trayvon Brazile.
And that's why, like with basketball, it's
places.
harder just to say that, right? Because you're playing with less numbers. So, like, next man up has to be, on that same level or very close. And I'm not saying you can't do that in football, but like, there's less numbers, so like, there's more impact of that one person. Like, there's more usage, like that kind of stuff. So
you want to 5 guys on your team on the floor,
right? And I think that's what we're seeing now with Arkansas. Is like we said, it's the changing of the rotations. You may think there's a rotation that's the one that they should use all the time, but then you realize, well,
haven't found it.
You haven't found it. And what if you get in foul trouble, or what if a guy just isn't consistent enough to give you that on a night in, night out basis? And I think that's what they're running into is it's just kind of a numbers thing right now. And meanwhile, I feel like, as we said, not surprised Missouri lost back-to-back games, maybe a little surprised in how they lost a couple of those from an offensive standpoint, but I still think that this is kind of that bounce back spot, and it has to be, right? Because I think this is very important for Missouri, because this is one where you've sort of changed how you're viewed as a team. This is one I think you have to get because Arkansas is kind of a sitting duck, right? Like they're just kind of sitting there right now, getting beat by double digits by everybody. And I think if you're Missouri, this is kind of you need to kind of stay on track for the NCAA tournament. And I mean, we'll talk about Arkansas's tournament situation after this game, perhaps, depending on what happens. But I'm going to lean towards Missouri because they're the home team. It's the same situation. If this was played in Fayetteville, I would take Arkansas. But I just think offensively, Missouri finds its way because it's something you said, right? Defensively, Arkansas just, boy, they've slipped a bit. And, especially I think it's one thing to do it against Alabama, as we said, another thing to do it against Vanderbilt. And I just think that's your fear here. But you also know Missouri is prone to slip a little bit defensively too. But is Arkansas the kind of team right now offensively to take advantage of that? I don't know. And so I'm gonna pick Missouri in this game. I think that's probably the better choice. So
yeah, I'm looking at computers because we don't have lines as we're doing this, and they're kind of all over the place. Ken Pomeroy has got Arkansas, I think, as a 1-point favorite. Let me make sure I've got this right. He does. You've got Bart Torvik has got Missouri favored by 2. BPI's got Arkansas favored by 2.6, and Sagarin's got Arkansas favored by 1.6. That averages out to Arkansas being about a 0.8 point favorite between those 4. So it's almost a pick 'em. But this is where, and we talk about it, like you can pick up on things. I like the computers. They get you in the ballpark, but they don't tell you everything. And of course, there's probably some noise built in with Arkansas having Brazile and Smith. I don't know how much it factors in that these teams are exponentially better at home than on the road. And for that reason, I like like Missouri in this one.
Yep. So there you go. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We obviously have a lot of basketball stuff going up on the channel, all our previews, reactions. We'll do some live streams along the way, as we said, and kind of got our football stuff rolling out here soon. Some series we're starting on the football side of things. So be sure to hit that subscribe button.
By the way, I forgot to say this. Texas A&M is about a 4.5 point favorite by the computers we like to. I don't know that I mentioned that on the A&M Florida game. Anyway, best way to catch all that stuff, hit the subscribe button. We're doing live streams, football on Monday nights, probably basketball on Wednesday nights. We'll be previewing all these games. We'll be wrapping them up the day after. Anyway, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of that. Hit the like button because that helps us out. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We'll see you again soon at Southeastern 14.